Hello, everybody. TheAireaidLord's here. Gonna make somewhat of a controversial video. I'm assuming it's gonna be a controversial video regarding the Emmys and some of the news about the shows that were and were not nominated. And yeah, I just needed to kind of get something off my chest here. I had this article pulled up, which is what I'm scrolling through, that Game of Thrones apparently had 32 Emmy nominations for the upcoming 2019 Emmys. It had 32 nominations for its 6-episode controversial 8 season. And it got those nominations in even the categories of writing. Multiple actors from the show got nominated. Emilia Clarke was one of them. The woman who plays the Red Priestess. There was a bunch. It's funny seeing Twitter reactions to this, but I personally, if you saw my Game of Thrones breakdown of Season 8, the videos that I progressively released about the ending and some of the episodes and the decisions that the creators, Dan and David, made, I didn't exactly agree with the terms the Season 8 went out on, and I get that, but you can admit that Game of Thrones was well-directed, maybe except all of the dark crap in the 3rd episode where they battled the Night King's army. It was well-directed for what they did, and they really put their time into the settings, the battles, the sceneries, and even if the plot was a gigantic mess, you could still say that there was massive production value, okay? No one can deny that, but what I get frustrated by as a Walking Dead fan, now I'm going to tie it back to what my channel's mainly about with The Walking Dead, I see Saturn nominations for Andrew Lincoln, for Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and that's all well and good, but the show has never been recognized, except in the makeup department for Greg Nicotero. The show has never been recognized by the Emmys at all, for whatever reason. I don't know the reason. No, you can Google it, and everyone has their theories because the show's been going for so long, but honestly, it's only had one more season than Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones had 8 seasons, and Walking Dead just wrapped up its 9th season. So I don't think length really had much to do with it. I don't know if it's because there's big-name actors on the show. I don't know if it's just because of the HBO format. HBO is in the pockets of the Emmy nominators. I don't know if that's the case. AMC doesn't have that power. Or technically that's not even true because Breaking Bad used to get Emmy nominations and they won some of them. And that was an AMC show. So I don't know if it's just because it's the zombie drama horror, because of the numbers. People have said that because of the massive ratings that the show draws, they would think that The Walking Dead getting an Emmy nomination would be a way of saying, hey, look, the shows that get the most viewers also get the best nominations. So that's really what you should be chasing instead of production quality. Even though I still, The Walking Dead still had the production quality and it was bringing in the viewers. And it had top-notch acting. I mean, I can think of some episodes that I think some actors and actresses should have been nominated for in the show. I'm talking The Grove with Carol in Season 4 with her and Tyrese, and the whole situation with Lizzie and Mika and the kids. Andrew Lincoln's performance when he's first subjugated by Negan, when he gives that speech in Alexandria, when he gets into the fight with Pete, any of the stuff with Carl in Season 8 when they're saying parting words, there are just the range of emotions that Andrew Lincoln displays. I just feel like he's been robbed so many times. And there was an article that when Samantha Morton came on as Alpha, there was an article that said, oh, is this The Walking Dead's opportunity to finally get an Emmy nomination or something where they're recognized for an award that puts their show on the map? And I was like, yeah, I mean, Samantha Morton has the acting credentials. Maybe, she carries those credentials. But, it got me thinking, are they really nominating people based on their whole body of work? Like, because Andrew Lincoln was in the, a few British comedies, and then The Walking Dead was his big breakout thing that everyone knows him from. Is that grounds to nominate? Like, isn't it just the performance? It doesn't have anything to do with outside factors, no influence from TV networks, money. It's just your performance in the medium, how you performed it, and how people, I guess, responded to it, voted on it. It's tough because I don't know. Obviously, no one really knows the behind closed doors secretive process that the Emmys use to nominate shows that they think are just the best of the best. But I think that given the improvements that The Walking Dead Season 9 had, compared to the gigantic mess of a plot that Game of Thrones Season 8 had, the fan reaction, it's controversial for me to think that Game of Thrones is getting all of these record number of nominations when the fan backlash is so immense, when people don't think that they're deserved. Like, if you put this up to a poll on the internet for just fans, viewers, maybe you have to sign up for an account, some vetting process, even if it wasn't just open to anyone, even if there was like a vetting process, I can guarantee you nobody would say that the show was, the eighth season at least, was worthy of 32 nominations. Now, I think the other reason they did these nominations, these 32 nominations, was because of the legacy. So this is, this is the final season of Game of Thrones, so this is the last opportunity the show will ever have to be nominated for anything. After this, there's no chance it can get nominated for anything. So did the judges say, oh my god, this is the last chance, we have to recognize this show and the immense mark that it's made on television throughout the years from 2011 to 2019, and we need to give it recognition and put it in the history books? Like, was that the line of thinking? Because if so, when The Walking Dead wraps up, if Rick Grimes is at the end or not, or any other characters, Norman Reedus or Melissa McBride, some of the actors and actresses who are still with the show, would you recognize them in the same way? If The Walking Dead ends in season 11, 12, something like that, would you recognize the show in the same way? Because for all of the years prior, you didn't. Like, when Negan came on, he didn't get, like, a best guest appearance. Like, why didn't Jeffrey Dean Morgan get best guest appearance for Negan in season 6, 7, 8? Like, any of the seasons where Negan was a prominent villain. Nothing. Nothing for his performance. Nothing. Nothing for Andrew Lincoln. Nothing for Melissa McBride. There's so many great actors and actresses on the show that get robbed, I feel. I mean, again, the fan support and the viewers, like, that's what keeps the show going, because it's such a popular juggernaut. The show doesn't die for that reason, so they think, I would say Kirkman and Gimple, they probably say quietly, they'd be like, yeah, it's kind of bullshit that we're not getting recognized, but at the same time, we have the viewers, we have the ratings, the advertising. Like, we don't, like, the Emmys aren't a necessity. And maybe Game of Thrones, I don't know, Dan and David have such giant hard-ons. They think they're gold and they're untouchable, and they probably don't care. They don't care that the fans hated the final season because they pocketed all the money. In the end, they pocketed all the money, and they're moving on to Star Wars and Disney. Like, they needed, for anyone who didn't realize why that last season sucked, it's because Dan and David, who were the co-runners, co-founders, co-creators of the show, they needed to get out of their HBO contract so they could go over to Star Wars and do the new Star Wars trilogy. So they needed to wrap up Game of Thrones as quick as possible, so they only did 6 episodes, hit the timeline pretty succinctly, and then that was it. That was about it. They just said, all right, that we're going to wrap this up as quick as possible, even though HBO came out and said it would be okay if you did 10 seasons. George R.R. Martin said he could have envisioned 13 seasons. The fans obviously wanted it, so everything, like, usually the TV network is the reason why a show doesn't get the funding or it doesn't continue. There was a case with The Legend of Korra, an animated show on Nickelodeon, where they didn't get funding for future seasons, so they had to contain season 1 to a season where everything wrapped up, and they couldn't have it extend beyond. Had they had the funding and maybe all like the assurance that they get multiple seasons, they could have done that. But Game of Thrones, you had the most popular TV series, you had so much funding, and it's hard to look back and not be disappointed. That's really all I can say. Without getting too angry and trying to bash this stuff in an irrational way, what I can say is that it's hard to not look back and be angry, and it's hard to not right now look at these nominations and feel like really? There's other shows, not even including The Walking Dead, there's other shows out there that deserve the nominations, that deserve it. I'm trying to think of shows that are worthy of it. Like with Westworld season 2 from last year. I'm trying to think of the other shows in the fall that could have that should be. Would Stranger Things, that new season, would that qualify? It's just because the problem is, no matter what show I name, no matter what other shows are in the running, Game of Thrones is so popular that it kind of dwarfs the other shows. That it basically dwarfs the other shows, and I'm looking right now. Oh, Better Call Saul. So Better Call Saul from last fall, which I love that show. The 4th season, that show is up for a whole bunch of Emmy nominations, and rightfully so. And it's also on AMC. Bodyguard, Netflix. So you got Killing Eve, Ozark, Pose, Succession. This Is Us. Limited series, Chernobyl's probably going to win that. Yeah, it's just frustrating. I mean, maybe the competition wasn't stiff enough. Because I'm looking at the other TV shows, and maybe they just didn't think the competition was stiff enough. And Stranger Things didn't hit the mark. But it's frustrating. And, because this video is two-pronged. It's being frustrated at Game of Thrones for getting a ridiculous amount of nominations despite the immense backlash. Because where were the nominations for Walking Dead when people didn't like the 7th and 8th season? When people thought it was slow, they weren't getting to the war and the Negan stuff fast enough, and it was slow in the bottle episodes. Where were the nominations then? People didn't like that stuff, or they were divided on it, and there wasn't, you didn't get this response from the Emmys for no season. Even when the seasons are great and people are raving about them, you don't get this response. So, again, is it the number of episodes? Because there's 16 episodes in a season compared to 10 episodes, usually 10, now 6 for Game of Thrones. So they have very long episodes. You could have ginormous episodes, like the hour and 40-minute long night episode, The Battle with the Night King. You can have an episode like that, and it has a shit ton of content. So someone could say, oh my gosh, this part of the episode was great, and this part, and therefore it deserves a nomination. So, again, these are other questions I have. Are they judging based on length, the TV network, how popular it is, how well it's received? I don't know what the grading credentials are, but it just seems like, again, Game of Thrones is always in it. They're always, no matter what year, they're always in the running. And I just have a sneaky suspicion that they're going to get an award because of their legacy. This is it's almost like they didn't get this award for season 8. They're getting it for the legacy of their show. The Game of Thrones made such a big splash in the drama television space that this is now, this is the congratulations, you made a huge impact on media and entertainment, here's your freaking trophy. That's why they're getting the award, and it's not because of season 8's quality. So, let me know what you guys think. I came at this from two angles, the Game of Thrones and the Walking Dead angle, but, it's really up to you what you think, your opinions. So, alright, thanks guys. See you later.